Why did God create man? God created man to know, love, and serve him in this life, and to be happy with him forever in the next. This is one of the very early questions in the Baltimore Catechism. Why did God create man? And we call this the end of man. Right? What is man's goal? What is his purpose in life? His purpose is to know, love, and serve God, and to be happy with him forever in the next life. And this comes very early in the Catechism because we need to know it from the outset. Right? We need to know what our end is. We need to know what our goal or our purpose is, because that guides everything that we do. If we have a goal in mind, then everything we do is going to be ordered towards achieving or fulfilling that goal. The example I always give is when I went to college, I knew I wanted to be a civil engineer. And so I enrolled in college and I declared my major as civil engineering, and I scheduled classes that were in the curriculum for that major, and I studied, and I didn't go out and have fun, one, because I didn't have many friends, but two, because I wanted to get an engineering degree. Right? Every decision I made, or most of the decisions I made, were ordered towards achieving that goal. Right? Because I had in my mind that that is what I wanted to do. And the same is true in our spiritual life. Right? If we don't have a clear idea of our goal, if we don't know and desire to get to heaven, then our actions are going to show that. Right? We're not going to act in the way that we ought to. And I think that this is a pretty simple concept for us to grasp, right? That if we have something in mind that we want to achieve, then everything we do is ordered towards that. But we, because we're human beings, are forgetful. Right? We need to be reminded of our goal, of our purpose in life. And so that is what the readings this week are doing. And they're reminding us, they're sort of helping us to stop for a minute and check and see how we are doing. In that first reading from Ecclesiastes, we have Koheleth, right? Speaking and saying that all things are vanity. Right? Things are vanity. Because we work for things. And we maybe put aside relationships with God, with our family, with our friends, because we're so focused on attaining more stuff. Right? I need that new car, or I need that bigger house, or I need to take this or that vacation. Right? We want stuff, and so we work so hard to get it. But then what happens? When we die, it goes to someone else who didn't work for it. I wish I could be that person, right? Just give me the stuff. I don't want to work for it. But that's what happens, right? We're all going to die, and the stuff that we work so hard for is going to go to someone else. And so it's vain to occupy ourselves with just striving after things, right? There has to be more. And St. Paul is reminding the Colossians of that in his letter that we hear from in the second reading. Right? He tells them, think about what is above, not about what is on earth. Because again, St. Paul knew that at times we get tied up. Right? We get caught up in the rat race of trying to get more stuff. Trying to have a quote-unquote better life. And we lose sight of our eternal goal. And so St. Paul is saying, remember your end. Remember your purpose. Remember that everything on earth, even the good things, are going to pass away. And that we are going to spend eternity either happy with God or very not happy and not with God. And so we have to think about that, keep that in mind, and allow that to motivate us in everything that we do. And the same is true with the gospel. We hear from St. Luke this great parable of Jesus, and that parable is prompted by a demand or a question. Right? This person comes up to Jesus and says, "Tell my brother to give me the inheritance. Right? I want money. Tell him to give it to me." And Jesus responds like he does a lot of times. He doesn't really answer the inquiry, but he just sort of asks a question to prompt more thought, right? "Friend, who appointed me as your judge? Who appointed me as your arbitrator?" Right? Notice that Jesus doesn't say, "I'm not your judge." He says, "Who appointed me as your judge?" And what I was reflecting on as I read that and sort of had that little insight is that basically Jesus is challenging this man to think about the things of heaven. Right? Jesus knows that he is a judge. He is the judge, right? The judge of souls. And so basically he's telling this man, why are you occupying yourself with these very insignificant matters whenever you have the King of the universe right here? Right? I am the one who judges souls. I am standing in your midst. And you're worried about getting some piece of property or some goats or some calves or something from your brother. It doesn't mean that those things are necessarily bad, but think about the things of heaven. Right? Don't be so occupied with the things of earth that your possessions possess you. Right? Use them for the good that they are, but always use them in such a way that they never make you lose sight of the things of heaven. And then the response tells us, if today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. And I think that is a good response for this message, this theme in these readings, right? Because we do like stuff. Right? We need some things to live, right? We all need some food to live. We need a shelter, right? We need some clothes. We want you to have clothes, right? But if today you hear his voice, harden not your hearts. If we reflect on this message, on these readings, and we say, well, I am sort of attached to my stuff, don't harden your heart. Right? Ask God to show you how you can overcome that, how you can work on it, how you can not be so preoccupied with things. Right? Maybe God is calling us to that. I'm sure God is calling us each to that in some way. Right? Because I know that I struggle with this too. Right? In March, I was minding my own business, driving back from the gym early in the morning, and a police officer ran a red light and hit me. And he totaled the car that I had paid off about 3 months before. I was mad. Right? I was preoccupied with the things of the earth. I was so worried about my car being ruined that I didn't think about the fact that it's a miracle that I'm alive. He hit me broadside on the driver's side of the car. If I'd have been going a fraction faster or him a fraction slower, he probably would have killed me. But I was whining and complaining that I had to go look for a new car and pay for it and all this stuff. I was preoccupied with the things of the earth. And so we all have room to grow and to become more and more detached, right? Thinking of things that are above. And so I want to very briefly talk about two ways or two things that one helps us to be detached and one reminds us of the need and the good to be detached. So the help of being detached is that the church requires us, right, as good practicing Catholics, it's one of the 7 precepts of the church, to provide for the temporal needs of the church. Right, that we are to give to the church what is needed to run the church, right, whether it be money or time and or talents, right? That has to be in place for the church to function. And so if we want to be good practicing Catholics, we have to assist in that. And I think that it's helpful. Obviously, we need it for the church to function, but it's also helpful for us. right? That every week or every month or whatever it is, I sit down and write that check or put that money in the basket. That's good for me, right? To be detached from my stuff. Because sometimes, if I'm honest, right, I'll think, man, if I cut back on giving a little bit, I'd have some extra cash and I could go have this nice meal, or I could, take this vacation or do whatever. But it's good for me, right, to give and to be detached. And so we do it. And I think the good reminder that we have of the need to be detached and the fruit that comes from it is those who are in the religious life. Right? Religious, whenever they make their profession, they take a vow of poverty, right? That they won't own anything. And different orders live this out differently, some more extreme than others. But it's a reminder for us of the life that is to come. We say that the religious life is the most perfect life, most perfect way of life. And it's the most perfect not because religious are automatically better than you and I, but because their life is more ordered towards the perfection of heaven. Right? In heaven, we're not going to own anything. We'll possess God and He will possess us. That's it. And so religious, by not owning things in this life, point to the life of heaven, right? Remind us of the joy that is going to be ours in heaven. Why did God create man? God created us. He created you and He created me to know Him, to love Him, and to serve Him in this life, and to be happy with Him forever in the next. And so we pray that we can be more and more detached from the things of the earth, right? That we can be rich in what matters to God by knowing Him, loving Him, and serving Him. And if we do this, then we trust that we will begin to enjoy the happiness of heaven now, and that one day we will be happy with Him forever in the life to come.